Hello, guys. My name's Harley Holland, and today I will be giving you my informative speech. I just want to show my guests first. There they are. And let's get started. So, many people, when they're going through elementary school, they learn about the basic stuff about Earth. And one of those things that they learn about is the seasons. And, obviously now, since like maybe the 70s, even further beyond that, we've known why the seasons happen. Um, According to the National Weather Association website, when the Earth's axis points towards the sun, it's summer for that hemisphere. And then, since the other hemisphere isn't near the sunlight, then it's in the winter. And that time sort of in between is winter, or it's going to be spring and fall for those other sort of places that aren't really touched by sunlight, but they kind of are. But um, in elementary school, we learned about the seasons scientifically, but we never really think about how the people before us, explained how the seasons worked, because they didn't know that kind of information. And that's really what I want to be expressing today. So I want to be informing you guys about how some cultures experience the seasons and how they sort of explained it in their own way. Um, so the first culture that I really want to talk about is the Greeks. We know a lot about Greek mythology. If you grew up in America or sort of any other like English sort of school system, you would know a lot about Greek mythology, or at least a little bit, because in English class they love referring to it. It's a really integral part of Western culture. And there's one story that really connects to the seasons that the Greeks used, and it was a story about Persephone and Demeter. Demeter is the goddess of the harvest, of farming, and she is the one responsible for giving farmers good crops and good weather and good seasons. Um, and her daughter Persephone was on Earth, and she was playing with some nymphs, and then she was kidnapped by Hades to be his wife in the underworld. And once Demeter found out about this and found out that it was actually Zeus who prearranged this, she fell into a really great depression, and she was so angry. And she cast the world basically into cold, and she made all the crops wither. She made everything a barren landscape. And so Zeus, obviously not wanting the humans to die, he came to the conclusion that he has to negotiate with Hades to have Persephone come up to the earth for the first half of the year and then be with him in the underworld for the other half. So that's a pretty simple way that the Greeks wanted to explain the seasons. They wanted to use their different gods to just sort of explain that in a way that they could probably tell their young. Um, and it's really simple to understand. So when Persephone is with her mom, Demeter, it's going to be spring and summer, and then when she's with Hades, it's going to be the winter and the fall. Um, and we still really uh, learn that today, because it's one of the most simple ways to learn the seasons. It's really easy to follow and understand, and it's how the Greeks knew to explain it, because pretty much everything that happened in their lives was because of the gods. Um, so there's that. But that's sort of like a European kind of point of view. But in Mesopotamia, with the Aztecs, they they had a very significant sort of view on the seasons, since they were sort of based. Their empire was based in a big basin. They did a lot of farming, and since they were in very swampy sort of wet landscapes, and they made their gardens on the mountains. But the way they viewed the seasons, they viewed it as two basic seasons. They knew about the rainy season, and they knew about the dry season. The rainy season was a time for agriculture. It was time to focus on farming and getting all of their resources, and then the dry season was a time for war. And really, the Aztecs focused on one thing in their lives. This was the one thing that they wanted to dedicate themselves to, and it was to keep the balance of the elements, in balance. They wanted to keep everything in check so that the world doesn't end, And they had two respective gods that they had for the rainy and the dry seasons: the god of the rain and the god of war and sort of battle. So, according to Mexicolor, the website, their mission was to struggle and keep the forces of the world in balance. And that sort of meant their two seasons: the agriculture and the war.